I hate to interrupt everyone in your conversations, but have your attention. So welcome everyone to Hot Lunch. We'll give you a chance to talk again. You know, we every time we do this, we hate to interrupt that buzz of conversation because Hot Lunch really, from the beginning, has been about just being here, having a good warm meal, especially when it's gotten cold outside, a hot lunch, and be able to just talk with the people at your table. But we have a guest, and we wanted to start up and have him introduce himself. So again, welcome to our October hot lunch. Welcome to all those also on Zoom. We've got a fancy camera, so if you can tell at home that it's a better camera, let us know. If you can't, shut up and don't tell us anything, because this is about making improvements, and if there were no improvements, then we're just going to pretend that it's improved. But wanted to welcome you to St. John's College and acknowledge that we are on the ancestral unceded traditional territories of Musqueam. Again, if you look at, for those who haven't, actually, how many of you have not been to a hot lunch before? This is your first one. Oh, okay, great. Well, I'll just do a little quick intro that you're at St. John's College. We're an international graduate college. If you see a flag above you, it means that someone who's lived here has come from that place. You can see that not all the flags are UN recognized nations. There's pride flags. So if you don't identify with a country or a nation because, again, you're part of an oppressed minority, or you just don't feel that kind of loyalty and identification, we ask, give us what flag you would like up there to represent you. And so we have the Sakha Republic, that's that blue flag over there. Doesn't exist seemingly, but they have a flag, and the person who came from that place said, this is, what I identify with. And so we had that flag made. So just as an indication of the kind of ethic of an international community with 180 plus students from 40 plus different countries. The world around our table is our motto. And so the world around our table is also, hopefully for you, the way you experience the college. Again, we acknowledge that we are guests here, all of us, including those of us who think of ourselves as Canadian or who, like me, was born in Vancouver. And that's indicated by both the Musqueam flag as well as the wonderful Susan Point textile salmon people, which again locates us here on the mouth of the big river where the salmon have been since time immemorial. Hot lunch. So for those of you just attending your hot lunch for the first time, this is now, we're entering our 9th year, Stacy? 9th year, 10th year next year. So we're coming up to our decade, first decade. And it's been cited multiple times, hot lunch is one of the reasons why UBC is a great employer, which we're proud of. I'm not quite sure. I think it's an indication again of the desire for community among staff and just the chance to, again, to relax during hard days and talk to each other. So I want to again thank and acknowledge the committee. There's Stacy Barber, Jennifer Liu, and Joanna Yang, who are staff from St. John's College, who administer hot lunch and help present it. Eilish Courtney, now retired, but still serving as liaison between Musqueam and UBC for special projects. She's one of the original committee members. Cheryl Dumaresque, Managing Director, Office of Vice Provost International. Diana Jung, who's part of HR. Shirley Nakata, Ombudsperson, and Andrew Parr, Associate Vice President, Student Housing Community Services. They all serve on the Hot Lunch Committee to just sort of, help keep it going, suggest possible speakers. Hot Lunch has always had wonderful speakers, and we want to, hear from people doing interesting things. Not all of them are exec or administrators, but we think it's also useful to hear and humanize administrators. Just as a quick joke, before we started Hot Lunch, we were making the joke that most UBC staff, if they ran over the provost, they wouldn't know that they ran over the provost because they wouldn't know who the provost is, and they wouldn't know that the provost is one of the most important people on campus because they control the budgets for academic. And so the idea that we would introduce, UBC staff and introduce administrators to UBC staff in a particular human way is the heart of Hot Lunch. Why I'm going on so long about Hot Lunch and why it's so, in my mind and in our committee's mind, so important and why we started is because we really fortunate today have someone come from HR whose specific job it is. And Jerry arrived not that long ago. So Jerry brings over 20 years of experience in human resources practice in various sectors, came from Pacific Blue Cross, where he led a complex compensation transformation project. He's going to talk about that without using 4-syllable words, I think. So we'll talk, and he'll talk about what he's bringing here in terms of recruitment initiatives and just keeping staff happy. I know that as a, it took a long time for me to admit I'm an administrator. It's kind of like, you know, Alcoholics Anonymous. It's like, there's been Administrators Anonymous. There's like, I'm an administrator, and, you know, and because it seems like it's all about problems, right? You're trying to, it seems everything's a crisis, like, oh, HR is solving problems. And people go, oh my, you got to talk to HR about that. Like, it's this sense of negativity that HR is a bad thing, or it takes care of bad things, or you only talk about HR when things go wrong. And I think why we're so happy to have Jerry agree to come is because there's also about making work a wonderful place to be, wanting to go to work, feeling rewarded, and having meaningful interactions with other people, actually feeling fulfilled through your work. And I know sometimes UBC seems like a place where that may be lost, but I also think it's one of the places or things that makes UBC such a great place to work, is that it is this unique combination of working at a university where students are here to learn, where staff have professional developments and other possibilities that perhaps is underutilized. And so those are the kinds of things that we're really hoping that, you know, Jerry Chen, as a new arrival from the outside, can perhaps bring some, you know, vitalization in that area. So we're really happy to have Jerry. Thanks for coming and meeting the Hot Lunch crew. But why don't we all give a warm welcome to Jerry Chen.
Thanks, Henry. It's funny, I didn't know about Hot Lunch until I had my first one-on-one with Andrew, and he took me out for lunch. And so I think he bribed me to then put in a word to say, hey, would you like to be a speaker one day? And then I kind of said yes, because you say yes to everything your first 12 months on the job. So, but I'm really blessed. I'm really happy to be here. And I really want to thank the Hot Lunch committee here, Stacy, Jenny, and Joanna. You guys have prepared me very well for this, and I'm not sure what to expect. I've never been to one before, but I will make sure to come to these on a regular basis. I hate to be scripted, but I have to script myself here for the next little bit, just so that I make sure I've got everything covered off. So, you know, these opportunities that we have together are amazing. And I'll talk about that near the end of what I wanted to share today. But it's really important that we can personally connect and be together again. I know, you know, we had a pandemic and all that stuff, but you know, the feeling and the meaning of personal connections is really important. I'll get into that in a little bit. So throughout my journey in life, I've learned and appreciated the experiences of really helping others. And I know what it's like to personally struggle, and I dare to say fail, because failing is not something that people would like to share or be proud of. But those are the times when, you know, when things are difficult, where you learn, and you can take those learnings and help others. And I'm really passionate about that. You know, I kind of take that out after my mom, who really helped her community for so many decades. And you know, she's no longer here. You know, she passed away from cancer almost 8 years ago. And but that was the one quality that she put in and instilled in me, was to help others. And that's, I think, what's kind of led me to being in HR, and being in HR, like Henry said, for over 20 years. Because I've helped organizations, I've helped businesses, both in corporate as well as in consulting life, just to help people in their journey, recognizing and knowing that the people that they have in their company, in their organization, are their bottom line. And without people, their organization and their business will not survive. Um, I've had experience working for global national organizations, unionized environments, startups. And the one thing you'll learn about me is that I don't like to settle for the status quo. I always believe that everything and everyone can be improved. Outside of the office, I'm a father of two girls. I have a 10-year-old and 6-year-old. I always say that they're sort of my teachers to my own personal development. They've taught me to be patient. They taught me to be kind, slow to anger. And I'm hearing a lot of chuckles because I'm sure your kids have taught you the same lessons as well. You can find me, I'm a huge sports guy, so I love the Canucks, although they're really crap in the bed these days. I'm disappointed. I'm a huge baseball fan, so when Toronto lost, I quickly converted to a hockey fan again to hopefully see hope in their Canucks, but that's not happening. So I have no other sport to turn to right now. My wife's a foodie, so by nature, I follow her to a bunch of foodie events as well. I love to barbecue. So if, I have an Instagram account, and a lot of it is just how I barbecue at the end of the day. That's where I find there's my creativity there. I love to travel. I just love spending quality time with my family at the end of the day, like a lot of us do. I'm one of the few born and raised in Vancouver. My parents moved to Vancouver early mid 70s, and they hustled. They weren't well off. My dad was a janitor at the school board and worked in that school board for 30 years. My mom was a nurse working at Shaughnessy Hospital, and they grinded, they hustled to provide me with a life that I have today and the opportunities that come with it as well too. So I'm internally grateful for that. So how I came to UBC. So really, I think one way to sum it up is unexpected, in a good way, not in a bad way. I was really happy working at Pacific Blue Cross. Like Henry said, I was very fortunate to lead a number of transformational projects. Dare I say the word workday around UBC, but at least at Pacific Blue Cross, we implemented Workday, and it was quite successful. It's kind of the 80-20 rule. 80% works, 20% you got to figure it out and resolve and sustain and stabilize and those type of things. Compensation was obviously a big issue there, and we transformed that. The labor relations environment there wasn't really great. I think back in 2017, when I first started with them, they had a labor disruption. And so, people were on the picket lines for about 2.5 months. And, so obviously when people came back, morale culture was just not the greatest at the end of the day. So, we took some steps and really worked with the union to really build those type of relationships. And it's about those personal connections. So I got the call from a recruiter, and they told me about this newly created AVP of HR role and the opportunities that lie ahead. And whenever people use the word opportunities, it's kind of like the nice fancy word for saying it's a lot of shit around here. I might be dating myself, but like the episode in Seinfeld, yada, 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 I'm here. I started working here at UBC on September 7th of 2021. I still remember the day because that was the first day when school started here in the fall semester. And at that time, we were in the tail end of dealing with the pandemic, which we're, at that time, we're still figuring out how remote work, now we're calling it hybrid work, is going to work here at the university. We were dealing with a gas shortage that kind of disrupted and delayed our return to campus. There's varying levels of COVID, and that also being a factor in as well too. But for someone with no experience working in higher ed, coming here, it was an interesting experience and an interesting start. Building connections and community early on was really difficult, especially being virtual. We were in interesting times, and it was hard to build connections. Even when we came back, there was just so many restrictions, right? Do I shake your hand? We're wearing masks still. Got to be 6 feet apart. Oh, I can't open that door for you. Let me press that button so the door opens so that you can go first. Take the next elevator up. I'll take the next one up. So it was just interesting times where we just weren't able to build those connections and really help, building community. For someone new and being part of an institution that has over 17,000 faculty and staff, it's difficult. It was a difficult time for somebody new, and I'm sure there's others who could probably relate if you started during the pandemic. Nonetheless, we got through it, and we're now at a point where we can get together today, have lunch together, have conversations, build personal connections, learn from each other. And I really believe that we need to get to a place here at the university where we can build community again. I think we've been in this bubble called the pandemic, where we're so used to being on our own in a virtual world, just to ourselves, gathered to ourselves, that we may have sometimes forgotten what it's like to be together. So, I think it's something that's really important that we continue to do this. So I'm part of Central HR, and HR at UBC is highly decentralized. And with that model comes opportunities for consistency and standardization. Faculties and units have their own HR leaders who are linked with us here at Central HR for support, programming, policies, and other things as well too. So I had a portfolio called Communities of Expertise. And within that portfolio, there's really three main areas. One is called Talent Development and Engagement. The other portfolio is called Total Rewards, Health, Wellbeing, and Benefits. And then the third one is Talent Acquisition. So Talent Development and Engagement, what is that? So the portfolio is really focused on supporting the university with development programs. So with professional programs, we offer things like workplace learning ecosystem. There's LinkedIn Learning, where people can attend and take courses to build their skills and competencies. We offer coaching services to support staff and faculty focus and advance their professional goals and development. There's a dedicated community of over 100 trained and certified coaches that provide one-on-one coaching, a limited number of one-on-one coaching, because the demand for coaches these days are rising year over year. We also support the university with PD fund administration, and in addition to professional development, we also support leadership development. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a bit as well. You're obviously probably familiar with managing at UBC and the program there. And we've just started the program, kicked that program off not too long ago this month. And, I think we have about 70, 80 people in that program today that's going to go on for the next little while. Within this portfolio, they're supporting the university. We also support, from an onboarding and orientation perspective as well for new hires. We support unit level when it comes to change management. We want to continue to promote UBC as an employer of choice through branding. So, whether it's the Top Employer Award, Top Canada Green Award, things like that, we're behind the scenes doing those applications, sending those in, and making sure that we can leverage that to promote UBC as a top employer. My second portfolio is the Total Rewards, Health, Wellbeing, and Benefits. So that portfolio is really responsible for the university's compensation plan management and salary administration for staff. The Health and Wellbeing and Benefits team provides training and resources on workplace wellbeing, building mental health literacy, and supporting the Office of Wellbeing as it relates to the Wellbeing Strategic Framework. In addition, we've got the Workplace Health Services, the newly formed Center for Workplace Accessibility. We do ergonomics, we have work safe management, we do occupational and preventive health to really support staff and faculty with things like return to work, stay at work, compliance, consulting, training, prevention, and all those things. And with the talent acquisition portfolio, a lot of us are really familiar with hiring solutions and how successful that's been for a lot of faculties and units. But really what we're looking at is expanding that service to see how we can support the university as it relates to the talent acquisition process. So for example, we could take on permanent recruiting for those who need to backfill for roles. We could help provide services to reduce a lot of the administrative headaches and burdens when it comes to hiring. And we also want to improve the diversity of our candidate pools as well too. And that's some feedback that I've heard from a number of faculties and staff as well. So while my portfolio, has a number of priorities, there's maybe just a few that I really want to highlight. So the first one is really about leadership development. And, I think we recognize that leaders are facing a lot of challenges. where they may not be equipped to handle certain and complex people situations. And there's a need to really build and improve leadership capability here at the university. So prior to the pandemic, we, and this is for my time, we had brought in a consultant to help really figure out what this leadership framework is going to look like here at the university. And really there's, multiple levels of leadership that we've identified. And I won't go into the great details here and whatnot, but that's something that, we're working to establish here and socialize at the university in terms of the framework, as well as what are the leadership competencies that our leaders need to have as it relates to being a people leader, and what are the behaviors that we expect people leaders to have as it relates to managing and leading their people. So we have a foundation, which is great that we can start to work from. And while we have existing leadership programs in place, we also recognize that more needs to be done to support our people leaders so that we're connecting and offering to them. Part of the work, like talked about, was socializing the leadership framework, the competencies, and we've started to talk this through with some of our senior HR leaders at the faculty and unit level as well. And there's more that needs to be done in collaboration and partnership with them. We've learned that there's a high interest of this type of work, and a couple of examples of things that we've already provided or we're in the process of providing in the next little bit. So one of the things we did was we did a survey and we did focus group meetings as it relates to hybrid work, and just kind of learning, what are some of the challenges that people leaders are facing as it relates to this. And so we collected a lot of the feedback. And so what we did was we created a resource page that people leaders can go to. But I remember one executive in one of our town hall meetings said, if you ever want to hide things from people here at the university, put it on a web page. So one of the things that we did was, we did create a web page, but that is not the source of how we want to promote these learnings. And so what we've done was I'm not sure if, as a people leader, if you've seen it in your inbox, but we sent a newsletter called Leader's Edge. And in the Leader's Edge provides you with bite-sized learning pieces that you can click, and it won't take too much of your time. We're still trying to figure out what that sweet spot is here at the university. 3 minutes seems to be a good amount of time for people to click and do a quick micro learning there about hybrid learning. And so we're continuing to look at the data as it relates to those newsletters. Our health and well-being team, through the direction of the Office of Wellbeing, and as one of the milestones on the Wellbeing Strategic Framework, is to provide mandatory mental health literacy training for all of our people leaders. And so that is going to be upcoming, and more to come as it relates to that. But it's a good first step in terms of supporting our people leaders when it comes to just really understanding this landscape here of mental health literacy. Another priority on top of the leadership development piece is about really evaluating our compensation structure. Really more specifically taking a look at 3 main interdependencies, and I'm not going to get too theoretical about our comp plans and things like that, but what we're looking at is sort of 3 interdependencies. One is our process, which is how we evaluate our jobs, how we classify our jobs today. The second is about our methodology in terms of the program that we currently use and how that methodology is working here at the university. And the third one is really our support, which is really our governance protocol when it comes to this type of work. So we've had some discussions with consultants on this type of work, and more to come as it relates to this. We understand it's a huge priority here at the university. I think a lot at the local level. We deal with inequity issues, we deal with engagement issues, we deal with retention issues, and so those are all things that are symptoms of our current structure that we have today. And so that's something of a high priority for us. Another priority is really our talent acquisition. Hiring is becoming more difficult, and finding good quality talent is also becoming more difficult as well. And like I said, HR is highly decentralized, so a lot of the recruiting work and the talent acquisition work is fallen on the local levels to do. And for some, you're resourced well and you have great mechanisms and ways to recruit, and others, you're having to do it off the side of your desk, and it's not easy, and it's time consuming, and it's lengthy, and Workday doesn't help as well too. So I get it. I think, with this center of excellence that we want to create as a vision is really to help support the university with the perm recruiting, to help the university when it comes to removing some of the administrative burdens when it comes to the recruiting process as well. So again, more to come, and just a quick plug. So I am recruiting for an executive director for talent acquisition. So anybody interested, please apply. Come see me. More than happy to talk to you more about that role. And then, I think another priority is just the new hire experience. And I think this one's a bit personal because mine was a little bit rocky. I mean, pandemic times probably caused it. But I think what I've heard is that this is an ongoing issue. And for new people who come to the university, it's difficult to navigate to the city, to navigate and just build community amongst 17,000 staff and faculty, 90,000 total, including students and student employees. So there's opportunities there. I know with some faculties and units, you do a really great job, and you have resources again and have ways of really creating a good experience. But I think for others, it's also a struggle. So, so we want to try to see what we can do to help build that. And we're making some changes to our orientation and onboarding process as it is today, and more to come on that as well. So that's really the work within my portfolio and with my team. I have a really great team as well. And, a quick shout out to them, because they're the ones that are the engines, and they're the thought leaders when it comes to this type of work. I'm not the expert, but I can definitely help contribute, and I can help steer the ship. And so I really rely on them and their expertise to support us all in this journey together. So there's one last thing I wanted to share, and I talked about personal connection earlier. And as I was preparing for this, I don't know, there's something in my heart that really said, Jerry, you need to talk about this. And, don't have to talk about work all the time, right? And it's sometimes good to be vulnerable. It's okay to be vulnerable amongst friends, amongst people here. For the past year, it's been difficult. I lost an old high school friend to pancreatic cancer in June. Our parents were aging, right? I came back from holidays in August, and both my father-in-law and my father ended up being an emergency. And I'm just like, what the heck happened, right? They never had health issues. So, seeing that for the first time has been difficult. Never seen a therapist before. This is actually my first time this year doing it. And I'm proud to say I'm doing it, because I think Asian culture, and maybe in other cultures as well too, it's a shame to say that you're seeing a therapist or seeking help. And I think it's really important that it's okay to share, it's okay to be vulnerable, and it's okay to reach out for help. I'm a parent, and that in itself is self-explanatory. There's challenging times raising a 10 and 6-year-old as well. And, on top of that all, we're all living in a world of so much noise. Racism, inflation, this upcoming recession that people keep talking about. Interest rates are rising, or have risen already today. Environmental changes, violence that we see around us every day or hear about it every day. Untimely inconveniences that disrupt our normal routine. It's been a tough road for all of us. I'm sure I'm not the only one. I'm sure everyone here is probably experiencing those challenges as well too. So why am I being vulnerable, and why am I sharing about this? I realize that, personal connection moments like this are extremely important. They bring joy. They bring opportunities to relate. They bring time to share in grief and sorrow. They bring moments of laughter. They bring times of learning. So I'm really appreciative of this opportunity, this hot lunch here, as one way for us to connect. I know we're getting back into things. We just did the President's Service Award a couple of weeks ago. We just celebrated 25-year club as well. And it's great to see 200 plus people at the Nest as well. So people having dinner together, having conversations, celebrating. Because these moments that we have like this are, the way I say it, it's uplifting. And, UBC is just a large and complex place at the end of the day. And I encourage all of us, including me as an introvert, to really create opportunities and moments where we can connect, because we all deserve more joy in our lives. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks so much, Jerry. Steve, if you don't know the Slido yet, we have the Slido set up to send questions. I know some of you already have, but we're going to take about a 5-minute break to give people a chance to send more questions in, and then I'll start passing some questions on to Jerry from you. But I just wanted to actually just personally appreciate your sharing about, about, cancer and other things in the family. Oh, wow, sorry. I didn't mean to do that. Those of us who have had to deal with illness or loss, I think over the last couple of years especially, sometimes just talking about it is hard. So thank you, Jerry. Okay. So that was a little bit longer than 5 minutes because actually that's the most questions sent to a hotline speaker in 9 years. So so you've succeeded to overwhelm Jerry, but hopefully Jerry can go through and maybe group some questions and stuff together. But I'm going to quickly turn it back over to Jerry to answer your many questions. Thank you.
All right. Okay. I'm not going to be able to get to all of them. And I don't know, maybe there's a way for us to get to them and then send it out later. I hope so. And the questions are still coming in. Okay, so there's one that was quite common. It was about managing at UBC, and a lot of it was about, the fact that we only accept about 70, 80 people, and the opportunity to see, can we expand it and further it out? And I think that I want to go back to, the reference about the leadership framework and the different levels and the different competencies. And, the team has put together a learning framework where we can start to look at opportunities to expand leadership development outside of just managing UBC. Managing UBC will continue to run, but will be part of the spoke of the wheel in terms of the overall leadership development. So I'll give you an example. One of the things that we were looking at is supporting leaders in their operational day-to-day work, like management 101, things like how to manage and lead in a unionized environment, or, topics like how do you budget? What's the finance landscape here? Some of those management courses and learnings that are vital and important as a new leader or as a leader in general. So, so there's more to come on that. It's going to take us a little bit of time to build it out, but the team has done an amazing job just putting together this learning framework where we want to sort of build out this opportunity for people to see how they can develop their careers. And so it's going to be focused on things like course offerings on soft skills. We've got the technical expertise that we offer through, the workplace learning ecosystem and LinkedIn Learning. I talked about the management fundamentals, that's another avenue. And then there's the leadership development piece as well. So there's a few pieces that encompasses this learning framework. And, hopefully in the near future, we'll be able to share more of that. Somebody had a question about robotic process automation. So RPA, I guess, is the short acronym for that. That doesn't fall in my area. It falls under our Executive Director of Operational Excellence, Cam Gray. But one of the things I've had experience with RPA in previous organizations. And, the question was, could you tell us more about RPA to reduce administrative work? And I'm always careful to answer this question because I find that RPA is not intended to reduce the workforce. And sometimes people may position that question to find out whether or not that's the case. And that's not the case. I think RPA is really about how do we reduce the administrative and repetitive work that we do that's just so monotonous and just tiring, and replace that time with higher value work where you can see your time and your efforts contribute to to UBC and the strategic plans that we have. So, we have a couple projects on the go. I'm not going to go into those details because They're really, it's really detailed, and I just don't want to bore you with that. But I think RPA is something that we are looking at, as an opportunity to really support people in their roles, not to eliminate roles. There's a question here: with a very decentralized model of HR support, how do you ensure that the advice being given by HR advisors is consistent across portfolios? And I think, we've, this is part of my time, but, I think we've taken some steps to connect with the Senior HR Leaders Network, and we have that network. We meet on a regular basis. So, I think anything in terms of programs, policies, and whatnot, definitely communicated with them. But I think at the end of the day, we're all working together, and, we just need to make sure that we're consistent. So, I don't have a really good answer other than the fact that we just need to be collaborative and continue the collaborative work that we do, and making sure that we keep each other informed of the work that we do as well. Geez. Still keeps coming in. I'll end off with this one here. What are 3 things you think make a great leader? That's a difficult. I can only speak from my own experience, and I don't know if I'm a great leader or not. People tell me that they enjoy working with me, so I have to assume that I have some good qualities as being a leader. But I think the first one, and foremost, I think, is being empathetic and being vulnerable is really important, because that's what builds trust with your people. And if you're, as a leader, if all you do is just delegate, or, it's always about work, I just don't think that is the right road for a leader to go on. And it's really about, again, I go back to these personal connections, is to show vulnerability as a leader, that you're not perfect. And it doesn't matter what your title says. At the end of the day, we all are experiencing challenges: work, home, outside, outside of work, external environment, things like that. And so I think it's important that as a leader, that we unite each other and have those conversations. And quickly, I find that when I go down this path of empathy and vulnerability, that it builds trust quite quickly. And then from there, you have a really good working relationship moving forward. So I think that's probably the most quality that I've learned in my many years of being a leader that has served me well. And I encourage our people leaders to do the same. And I know it's very difficult, because weakness is not something that as a leader you want to show. And sometimes we're taught to never show weakness and always show strength and our best foot forward. But sometimes showing the other side is important. I think we'll get to the rest. This is quite a bit. So, and I know we're at time. We're at 12:56. So there you go.
Thanks, Jerry.
Okay.
Thanks, Jerry. And again, we weren't prepared for that many questions. Normally there's like 5, 6, and it's like we were. So I think it shows again the interest in your position as a newly created position last year, but also I think to the need on campus. Maybe it's COVID, maybe it's also just a long-standing need that perhaps is being addressed. That this is a place full of people. The strengths, I know you've heard it, many of you who've come to Hot Lunch before, that the strength of UBC is its staff, is its, are the people who work here, and that's who UBC is. It's not the buildings. But I think maybe to actually implement that requires someone really putting that focus on it. So thank you, Jerry, for coming. We have next up is Nord. Whoops, hang on. Not being prepared. We have Norjean. I want to get this right. So Norjean Hassam, who is the Chief Student Health Officer at the Vice Portfolio of the Office of the Vice President of Students. And so Norjean's going to talk about actually a lot of very similar and parallel initiatives for students. at UBC. And again, many of you are in portfolios that have either direct engagement with students, but others, it may be a little more distant, that your work from students. So again, I encourage you all to come next month online or in person to share a lunch, and we'll hear from Noorjeen Hassam about herself personally and why she cares about this position and what she's trying to accomplish. So thanks again. Please join me in thanking Jerry Chen for today. And also, hopefully if you can't make it next time, at least enjoy hot lunch at home or in the office or wherever you're joining us from on Zoom. Thank you.